What is Interledger's total addressable market size? All the money. What we're really talking about with this idea of the Internet of Value is creating a single global payment network that connects literally everyone.
Big problem in payments is you don't have interoperability between networks, and that goes for blockchains as well, right? Blockchains can't solve this problem, right? Because blockchains are networks themselves.
You are not a blockchain.
That's not the solution to glue it all together.
Blockchains don't solve the interoperability problem by themselves.
As networks, they can't be a network of networks.
Internet of money, internet of value. Eventually, it is going to be a network of networks, interoperable, with the existing systems. It complements the existing systems.
So we need some kind of an internetworking protocol for payments.
Create that internet scale protocol to move digital assets.
Connect all of these various networks and can do multi-hop. Our bet is that Interledger protocol is going to be the protocol of choice for interoperability. Our bet is that this is going to be a successful interoperability protocol, a key component of this Internet of Value.
So in that way, it's a lot like TCP/IP.
So think of it as TCP/IP of blockchain.
Describe our work at Quant as laying the foundations with Overledger to build the Internet of Trust. We are honoring the original vision of the Internet by decentralizing it.
What we're doing is replacing the centralized web. Our technology is shaping the next evolution and generation of the internet.
I've always had an idea of creating an internet protocol for money, and they agreed. So we've got the US government involved, the Internet Engineering Task Force. They're the ones that endorsed and enabled TCP/IP to happen, the ones that basically created the protocols that run the internet.
We're looking to re-architect the internet.
Are you the web?
Yeah, we call it the Internet of Trust. So it's the next evolution of the internet.
And so it's already happening.
Yeah.
So it's not going to happen, it's happening now.
Hello, everyone. QNT, is it basically just an ERC20 token? Now, there's a lot more than meets the eye, obviously, but if you're new to QNT or you're a person that already has invested in the past and wants to see more connections, you want to stick around to the end of this outline. And I'm going to back it up, yes, again, with that statement that QNT will be the most expensive token, yes, token, not coin, in history. And how about this? Is QNT even a cryptocurrency? You didn't hear it from me. Stick around for that. But most importantly, we are going to connect some things that, in my opinion, I haven't seen anybody talk about this. If there is somebody out there, hey, shout out to you. But I went down the rabbit hole again, and I came to the conclusion that this QNT has to have an incredible amount of worth that maybe we can just not really truly fathom. How so? Let's get into the material. You'll be so incredibly glad that you stuck around. We have chapters, timestamps, whatever you want to call it. Hey, are you old school? Hit the pause button, come back. Nobody says you have to watch it all at once. I want to give a shout out to the one and only Tokenizer, Smoke, and of course, our good old friend Quant Papa. All three of these guys deserve credit with some of the outline that we have. And of course, I have my own findings. So let's jump into the material. Let's go ahead. So look what we have here. Let's start off with this finding. And it basically comes from Tokenizer. He did an excellent job of presenting this. And he talks about, for example, a little bit of what you see right here. Now, we talk about patents quite a bit, do we not? I mean, I cover other projects like Jasmine, et cetera, when it comes to patents. Obviously, Tokenizer does as well. So I'm going to full screen this. I want to put some emphasis on the material, not my mug, but the bottom line is when you see some things posted here, it really, really should open your eyes. How so? Well, he goes on to mention about the European Patent Office. I've talked about some of this in the past as well. More in particular, the publication of EP 349-3141B1. Its status is active, but last update was July 24th of this year. And he states that basically last month, we saw an official approval by the European Union for a QT patent, now approved in Japan, United States, China, and Europe. For the purposes of our outline tonight, we're going to put a lot of focus on China and a little bit of some of the other ones towards the end of the outline. He says, we've previously discussed names like Circle, Toyota, CAICT, etc., citing the US patent. I want you guys to put focus on Alipay, and I'll get more into that. But with Alipay, they cited QUANT's European Union patent. Yeah, mind exploding there, right? Because if you know about Alipay, they are actually bigger than PayPal. And I'll show you guys some evidence if you weren't aware of that. But he says, while not quite as adopted as their US patent, there's 3 names listed in the patent citations. One of them, of course, is the QUANT network themselves for another patent for distributed systems. And they've basically been working on that since 2022. Of course, that'll be discussed in another thread, but it's these 2 Chinese entities that have cited the patent. Number 1, the direct translation to Wuhan Zhuhai information technology. But more importantly, we can see the other Chinese name directly translate to Alipay. Don't believe him? He's already taken the liberty to translate this. So, yeah, plain as day on those first 3 Chinese characters, Alipay. And like he says, if you want to see further proof, just look at those 3 characters and basically what I said. So, what about this whole thing of Alipay, and why are they citing the QUANT's patent for their own patent titled, quote, lightweight decentralized application form? Now, when I get more into this, I will cite some material, and shout out to our brother in the community, Michael Cornwell, who cited somebody else that shared this as well in regards to the lightweight pricing, okay? And I'll show you some screenshots why that matters. But here's a quick gist of things. So the system comprises 1 or more DLT nodes and includes computing devices for storage. The file system can interact with the nodes, database servers for on-chain data retrieval, and the application layer is for DLT-based programs. Both blockchain communication protocols and transaction ordering are critical aspects here. To see Alipay is not only looking into DLT now, but doing so with the foundation QUANT basically laid in mind, just as to the links of QUANT times China. Okay, great stuff, right? Then there's this guy, the Quaffy Viking, basically, and he has this screenshot. And I think this is really crucial that you guys see this for yourself. So I've gone ahead and blown this up. Let's get into this for a second. And yeah, there you go. Alipay, leading digital open platform connecting 80 million businesses with more than 1 billion consumers in China. And who's following them? Boom, Gilbert Verdin. Okay, that's worth pointing out, right? Well, are you aware that when we get more into some of this, I've talked about some connections. Some people think this is speculative, but that's okay. But in reality, it's not too speculative. Remember when I did an outline a while back about Fastnet Limited Ltd? Shout out to Quant Papa. Why do I point out some of these things? Well, again, patents. So you see here, right, inventor and some of these characters, and I'll share it again for you just in case you didn't see that other outline. But current assignees, Fastnet Network Limited. And of course, like, you know, what it says here, it's got some Overledger and all this stuff, right? You could watch that outline. But what's really interesting is when you go to some of the patents, again, some of this is still pending, dates back to 2017. And, you know, look at this. This is the original screenshot, current assignee. And again, it's all there, right? But some people have asked, like, why does the interpretation say this? And basically, when you go just like, you know, Tokenizer did with Alipay, and you plug in this specific patent, this pops up Gilbert Verdin, Colin Paterson. By the way, Colin Paterson was the former CTO before Martin Hargreaves. There's this guy, Gaetano Mondelli, which I'll get into why he's important. Tokenizer did a great deep dive in the past about him. And of course, Paolo Tasco, as we know, both Hedera and of course over with the Quant network. So that's an actual thing. We covered this in the past, right? Been there, done that. So just in case you're wondering, if you dug more into the patent of what we're referring to with this one, you see in Chinese literally mentions Overledger, and people are like, can't really wrap their heads around this. Like, what exactly is, Fastnet Limited or Fastnet Network Limited? Like, just it's a big rabbit hole. I decided to look more into it. I'm not saying this is 100% quant, but it's interesting to go to gov.uk and see some of these postings, like, for example, Fastnet International Limited. Now, I understand there's more than one Fastnet. There's like one that is even in, South Sudan. And, they're also an internet service provider. And you may be asking, why is Max getting into the weeds about internet service providers? I definitely got some info that will, you're just going to want to stick around for that as well. But, private limited company, obviously have been around a lot longer than Quant, right? But what's interesting is, like it says, nature of business, wired telecommunication activities, other telecommunication activities, and of course, data processing, so on and so forth. A person could basically say, yeah, that's basically like all the things that ISP is. Okay, true. As I get more into this, they had some recent updates, and for example, dating back to like January, I mean, all this stuff is verifiable. There's nobody from their key organization, as far as people, that could connect really to Quant, right? But the bottom line is, I would check it out at least, right? But what's really interesting is when you get into a little bit more of the weeds of things is, like mentions about Barclays and some other connections, right? And so I decided to go over to the Quant Network site, and what we will pull up here is some of these key things, okay? So we know about Quant and R3, selected as technology providers for the UK's Regulated Liability Network, aka RLN. I remember when people thought that was speculative, and then you see confirmation. But when we see things specifically about Quant and Barclays, well, you got to keep in mind when you see statements like the UK RLN is basically a common platform for innovation across multiple forms of money, and how it includes basically, collaboration of several stakeholders, and also those that are part of the industry, and how the UK RLN explores options for users to make payments, transact, and settle liabilities with digital marketplaces, and that some of the participants are obviously Barclays, Citi, and so on. Okay, you come to the conclusion, maybe there is a connection there. As I got more into it, talks, of course, a little bit more about the involvement in the RLN, dating back to even 2023, likes of Barclays. Once again, as I get more into this, I looked at the address and so on, saw that, the office was cited with Manningtons.net over on 8 High Street, East Sussex, and so on. There's other office locations and whatnot. And, I was like, might be a coincidence, might not be, might not even be the right Fastnet, but it's interesting to see it was in the UK. But this statement about business only ISP, okay? So this is not available to everyone. And like it says, they provide internet services to private and public sector organizations. I thought that was interesting. I thought it was worth pointing out to you guys. Again, not 100% confirm that this is the right Fastnet, but it's definitely worth pointing out. Like how it says, tailor-made, and, it gets more into this. This other part I got into is a little bit more of like the location and, other offices, and, people can obviously, look into this if they want to. As I jump more into this, I went into, for example, some of the questions that you guys had, and that is, some people said, Quant, it's just an ERC20 token. And if anything, I don't even know if it's just like, I think I saw one guy say something like, it's just wrapped ETH. And, shout out to our brother, Lift Capital. I guess he done quite a bit of deep dives about this and so on. But, some people feel as though that there's some issues, right? Well, my thing is this, okay? Utility coins and utility tokens. You guys are asking me in the comments, what is the real true purpose of the QNT token? Again, we've been there, done that, but to see this listed from the Quant Network site, that QNT is a utility token and is used to form, access to Quant services, obviously such as the Overledger and the services, but most notably as a way customers to use, of course, Overledger, and we can get into that, but we've talked about this till blue in the face by Sean Malai show. But it says, this statement: would you like to list a QNT token on my crypto exchange? Look at this. Thank you, but we have no interest in promoting our token as a cryptocurrency. It is a utility token for the Quant ecosystem. Okay, so if it's not a cryptocurrency, what in the world is it? It goes on to mention it's used as a form of payment for Quant services, most notably as a way for Overledger users to pay their fees, as explained here. Okay, so, in my own little notes, I thought to myself, interesting that they would post that on the Quant Network site, right? Some of you guys probably wondering that as well, whether you're watching, listening, and so on. But the bottom line is this a true statement from a technical point of view? I mean, obviously, Gilbert Veridian's 1,000 times smarter than me, so if this is coming from him, that's definitely worth pointing out. But from what I gathered, not interested in promoting the token as a cryptocurrency, then Quant Network is saying that they're not a cryptocurrency. So that kind of sounds confusing. Well, here's the point. While QNT itself is technically a cryptocurrency, it's based on digital-like nature of things, right? It's used for cryptographic techniques. The Quant Network's focus is on utility as, of course, a payment token, right? And you use that for the services. So that does kind of align with their statement, right? But I want to break down a couple things as we continue on in this outline. And that is this. There's a technical definition when it comes to anything. I don't care who it is and what organization it is. But QNT definitely meets the technical criteria of a cryptocurrency. I mean, let's just be real about that. As like a digital asset with cryptographic underpinnings. Now, there could be, regulatory forces that they're aware of in the future of how to classify some of these things in the basket of utility. And maybe from the perspective of the UK moving forward, that could be a thing. But QNT in itself does, in fact, of course, have a functional purpose. How so? Well, we know that the Quant Network emphasizes QNT's role as a, of course, utility token within their ecosystem, and of course, that will primarily pay for fees on Overledger services. So while QNT can be classified as a quote-unquote cryptocurrency from a technical standpoint, its primary function in itself within the Quant Network is, in fact, as just like they mentioned, a utility token. This distinction highlights the nuances, of course, of cryptocurrency classifications and how different projects, of course, emphasize specific aspects of their tokens. So, thought I'd point that out. As I get more into this, I want to take you over to the Quant Network because some of you guys want to see specifically pricing. Jump into the weeds about that for a moment. All right, so if you were to go over here, they talk about explore, building, integrate, and scale as you need with the Overledger platform's flexible plans. It says ready to deploy across your organization, contact them. Well, why point out any of this? You guys, of course, are not, for the most part, going to build a blockchain or anything like that. Well, sometimes people wanted to see some examples about the bigger picture. I can't blame you. So to start, you could do test nets, and let's face it, every product out there for the most part has free trials and whatnot. But what interests me is kind of like what it says to deploy. $179 per month. Start connecting your existing stack to blockchain. Everything in the start tier plus 2 main as your choice. 5 bridge deployments. And then think about some of those bridges. 5 transaction signing keys. 10 token deployments. Again, token deployments. Quant shared testnet. Multiple public testnets. API calls included. We've given examples about that. And when we get to the end of the outline, I'll give you more examples about that. So the next part talks about scale, $379 a month, getting a little bit more into, being more expensive. But like I said, take your projects to the next level with all the safety and demands of a business. And again, all the same features, but much more, right? 20 bridge deployments compared to 5. You get the gist. But these statements about Quant, banking as a service, private testnet, Overledger authorized, Quant Smart Audit, et cetera, et cetera. To me, this is more towards the enterprise side of things. Is that all I have? Well, no, it's not. Because earlier, we heard some of the statements about a light package, if you will. Shout out to this guy. His name is Pultini. He's Quanfi, right? And he states basically, the light subscription package, this is the one that Michael Cornwell reshared to our community, users can pay with fiat as well. The fiat is then converted to QNT by the Treasury. If the Treasury is empty, QNT is sourced from the market. We will see a boatload of QNT being locked up. Well, I thought I'd get more into the weeds of this as well and blow it up for you guys. So when you look at the light plan, right, man, I mean, is that a big jump, right? So for one, it talks about mainnets, talks about testnets, but it says Overledger APIs and Overledger flows have community support. I would hope so, right? And it says you'll be able to select your prepaid credits bundle the next step. Now, this is where the statement comes from of, you know, the QNT token could be used, or you can pay in fiat, but where the case be, it's converted, right? But look at that fiat, $11,000. QNT 9183 as, of course, the time of posting that. We're talking about getting to the high prices when it comes to some of this stuff, right? So thought I would share that with you, because if that's the light package, can you imagine like what they would be charging somebody like maybe BlackRock or whoever, right? Yeah, definitely. Okay. And there's only what, 14.88 million QNT. So wrap your head around that for a moment. That's why I want to point out some of this to you guys as well. Jumping more into the outline, back to Tokenizer once again. He gets more into the weeds of this. I think it's very important for your understanding. The scale of QNT, right? He posts this January 5th of 2024, but it's not time sensitive. So scale QNT, ISO TC307. By the way, if you're new, that is the quant network standard basically invented from Gilbert Verdian, right? He founded this. Far, far bigger than we all had initially thought. Look at this for a second. When it comes to committee member and experts down below, you have the EU Commission, and we're going to connect that to Gilbert Verdian in a bit. You have also the ETUT. I'm not as familiar with that one. Everybody knows about JP Morgan for the most part. UCL, of course, the Bank of International Settlements, Citi, IETF, which if you're new, Internet Engineering Task Force. I believe they've been around since either 1984 or 86, give or take. HSBC, United Nations, UNE Association, and of course, LACChain, IBM, right? Obviously, some of these are bigger than others, but it's the connection to ISO TC307. And most importantly, who's directly working, of course, with some of these. And no surprise of the scale of ISO standards and the importance on the future of blockchain. The rabbit hole for quant truly never ends. It doesn't. I get into the weeds too much where my outlines, you know, I can admit sometimes they're long, but there's some things I just don't want us to skip, right? Like I said, hit the pause button, come back. So as we jump into this, I mean, we can't get into everything, but all of these are connected to ISO TC307, IBM under that umbrella. And, you know, you get more and more into some of this stuff. You see other people with their connections, like this particular lady, Pink Hurry Ben Saul, for example, Onyx, JP Morgan, and so on. By the way, Onyx coin, you know, shout out to Rob, we confirmed, you know, Rob Mass and so on. Onyx coin and this particular Onyx, not the same thing. Sorry, don't shoot me on that one, but, you know, key differences. But the bottom line is seeing all of these ones with these connections, right? And of course, as we jump over to Gilbert Verdian, he's got a huge list of, you know, his resume and so on. But man, Bank of International Settlements, I mean, HSBC, again, all back to this, you know, foundation of ISO TC 307. So that's the standard. And that was invented, of course, by Gilbert Verdian. Great post from, of course, the one and only Tokenizer, right? So something else I want to get into is this, okay? And, you know, I think it's really good to post some of these things or share some of these things. So I want to get back into this, right? So earlier we talked about, you know, like internet service providers. And I know this is such a stretch, but I want you to hear me out on this, because a lot of times we've done research and we went from speculation to confirmation, okay? So again, disclaimer, not 100% sure in regards to the Fastnet connection, but it's definitely raised my eyebrows. Thought I'd get more into it. Thought I'd bring it to you guys. So this is old, but it's still incredibly valid. Okay. This is from Quant Network featuring Overledger, blah, 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 right? This is from Blue Node Capital on the Medium. Very old screenshot, but it's going to pound it home when it comes to statements about, for example, licensing, but more importantly, the IP. So as we get more into it, let's jump into just a tad bit of this for a second. So Overledger in itself is so much more than, meets the eye when it comes to, some key things. I guess everybody had to have that right part, but it's the revenue streams. People are not really truly aware of the multiple revenue streams. They just look at like ERC20 token, absolute garbage, but charge a percentage of each transaction that's done through their services and so on. Create a new like reg tech and fintech products through software as a service. And believe me, SaaS, we're going to get really into the weeds of that. How about this? Create distributed enterprise apps, Quant Enterprise middleware products, and then this part, licensing of Quant IP. License Quant IP. I know it's smudged and it's old and it's hard to say it, but this is accurate. License a Quant IP to manufacturers and internet providers / blockchain providers. So it didn't just say blockchain providers, internet providers. So what are internet providers? Think about it, guys. ISPs, internet service providers. So am I too far off with my potential hypothesis when it comes to the whole thing of there could be really something there in regards to ISPs? We've seen in past, even with Bitcoin and so on, like there's IPv6, right? And the licensing of that. So that's a real thing, and that's a valid argument. All right, a little bit more about the whole concept of revenue streams and quant software as a service, right? I decided to jump down to here because, for one, healthcare, Gilbert Verdian and his wife have a robust background in that. And this statement about governments, telling you flat out, I have a bombshell to drop on you guys when you see later in the outline. And maybe somebody else covered it in the past. I don't know. Shout out to Quant Papa. He has mentioned a key company that I'm going to get into here in a bit. But it's the government connection of Quant is absolutely mind-boggling. All right. So when I got more into this, I saw this statement, two of them, and that is, for one, artificial intelligence on blockchain, okay? This is coming from Quant Network. Now, when you go to quant.network and you type in AI and some of these other things, they don't really mention a lot there. Like literally, if you type in a search artificial intelligence or type in AI, sometimes it'll just come up with like, it'll say, sorry, nothing found. And in the past, there was things found. This other statement about treaty contracts. I mean, think about it, guys. You ever wonder why Quant's got so much connection with, like, for example, XDC? And we talked about XDC and R3 Corda, but XDC, especially when it comes to what? The Electronic Trade Documents Act, right? So that as well. But man, some of these statements in the past have aged well, and some of them have just been stricken, right? So back to the whole thing of Fastnet. Colin Paterson was one of the guys that was mentioned in that patent, right? When he would do the interpretation. Now, again, he's not part of the Quant Network team anymore. He left back in 2018, 2019, basically. I think it was 2019, right? But he was the original CTO and co-founder, okay? And, we know that Martin Hargreaves took over from him and so on, and I don't know all the reasons for it, and I don't even think it really matters all that much, but nonetheless, what interested me when I got more into his resume was this guy had a certain connection, and again, just like Gilbert Verdian, a whole grocery list of related hubs and backgrounds and so on. But the bottom line is, when you got down further into this, like VMware alumni and machine learning, and more importantly, artificial intelligence, right here, I'll highlight for you, right? So I thought to myself, that's interesting to see that background, and especially from a foundational phase of QNT. Where we're really going to go with this is this, okay? And this is the company called Trudera. Shout out to Quant Papa. He showed me some screenshots with this a while back and so on. And Quant Pop, I really hope this doesn't violate any NDA. I didn't see anything that it did. I mean, anybody could really do a search on this one. But we're on a mission to bring intelligent AI to enterprise. Originally, this, I believe, was advertised as Trudera, part of the Quant network. Okay, so Gilbert Verdian actually founded this. It's founded back in 2010. Why am I bringing this to you guys? Well, if you try to go, for example, to the Trudera URL, nothing. It's not even up. Nothing there. Why is that? Well, check this out. This gets really interesting. And instead of just keeping this towards the end, again, I want to keep you on the hook of listening because this is really unfolding. I mean, when I got into it earlier, I just had to keep going through it. I couldn't believe what I saw. So let's take you over to some of these key findings. And basically, if you were to go over to Trudera.com, it's going to come up with a 404 error, right? But there's, of course, the Wayback Time Machine. All right, so February 5th, 2019 is the last that I saw that really stood out, other than getting a lot of errors. But as you can see, Trudera got the Quant logo, right? And maybe other people point this out, and I'm sure there's probably people from the Quant Network, Telegram, and so on, community people that maybe post this past. I don't know, but wherever the case be, some things were new to me. And so look at this, Trudera using AI to make business sense. And I'm going to be honest, some of this stuff gets a little spooky, okay? But as I get into it, it says, we are on a mission to bring intelligent AI to the enterprise. Okay. See what you want. Quant is all about that bridge to enterprise, okay? So, look at some of this stuff, right? I'm going to go further down. Sentinel discovers new business insights by linking machine activity to human behavior. Then they talk about this product called Salience. Salience is the world's first cyber AI powered by Sentinel. Salience learns and understands what is normal in your enterprise, finding the unknown unknowns that traditional security tools can't detect. Okay, what does this have to do with anything? I don't know, right? But as I got further down into the site, I was just like, man, this is unfolding other things that I don't know too much about. So I thought I would go over to Salience.ai. And of course, in the process of going there as well, that basically unfolded a big rabbit hole of other things. And, once you come up with errors and stuff like that, like right now, if you go to Salience.ai, site can't be reached. And it's just like, what the heck? There's got to be a reason for some of this stuff. So basically, I went over to, again, Wayback Time Machine. So this time we're, 6 captures from August 3rd, 2018 to August 8th May 8th of 2022. And some things start to unravel. And I'm telling you flat out, some big things start to unravel. So world's first first cyber AI, using AI to obtain cyber superiority. Okay. And here's a bombshell that will keep you on the hook. You want to hear more. Trust me. Stick around to the end. Only military and government, only available for what? Military and government agencies? What? Holy cow. Now, again, I'm not trying to create hype. It may seem like it. But my thing is this. The research speaks for itself. You don't have to hype this stuff. All you got to do is check more into only for military and government agencies. So, guys, we need to really rethink Quant and their connections. There's, like you see in the pricing plan, there is what's available to, SMEs, right? Small and medium enterprise. And then there's packages available to the bigger enterprises. And apparently, there must, in my opinion, I don't know 100% because, again, I don't have that type of access, but I can do research. There has to be like maybe Overledger, like a version of Overledger specifically for government agencies and the military. Now, as we know, and I know I don't hold any DAG, I can't own everything, but I can recognize value. With Constellation DAG has that U.S. government Air Force connection that everybody talks about, right? Like, even if you didn't know about Constellation DAG, that's one thing that stands out. Well, Constellation DAG has that partnership still with Quant. So when you see stuff like this, I'm like, whoa, Like, it's not just a pump the brakes moment. It's just like, whoa, like, I hope I don't get my channel shut down or whatever. I don't know. I really hope God this doesn't violate some NDA. I'm a big fan of Quant. I want to continue to cover it. But again, anybody could find this if they really were to dig deep into it, right? Thought I'd bring it to you guys. Again, stick around. It gets better. So I was like, Salience, back to that whole topic, right? Is there a white paper on that? Absolutely there is. Check this out. Humanize, safeguard digital behavior. All right. And he mentioned about software as a service. Well, yeah, believe it or not, 2 things in the entire 16-page white paper. Talks about software as a service as a solution. And of course, talks about a lot about, cybersecurity. It goes on and on and on, right? And of course, I, rake through this, try to see if I mentioned quant, blah, 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 but I didn't see that. But at the end of the day, this citation, back to what we shared earlier, it's like those URLs don't exist, but all this connected to quant anyway really takes you down the rabbit hole, right? All right. So basically, I thought I'd get a little bit more into the weeds, if you will. Take over the quant network. Because when we talk about the concepts of, software as a service and how, quote, straight from the quant network site, that Overledger changes all that, and it's easy to use, and it's continually enhanced, it integrates seamlessly with your existing systems. Again, systems, what about other systems, government systems, military systems? And the pricing, Overledger offers 2 new self-serve software as a service plans, and we just talked about that, right? But again, there's got to be a bigger picture here. So to get more into some of these things. And, you see some of the statements here about how Overledger is fully functional. And basically speaking, it reduces legacy cost, enabling access to new markets and clients. New plan is the most powerful free blockchain plan available to any enterprise. Again, think about that for a second. Any enterprise. And of course, that was from, that was posted, I think, a while back, right? April of this year. Still pounds it home. How about a little bit more about this? Gilbert stated that financial institutions and their corporate customers are racing to harness the power of blockchain. Maybe also the government. We know that. Military, we know that. But could they very well have the best solution out there? Could very well be. But why would you want government employees to use some of this? Well, time is money, even when it comes with the government and even the military. How so? By launching low-code software as a service platform, aka the Overledger, right? So that's definitely worth pointing out. And of course, what Gilbert said a while back, we are reaffirming our commitment to their clients and future growth of the company. So, okay, that can't be it. No, it's not. I decided to jump more into some other things. And that is when we get to the subject of patents, because that's how we started the outline, did we not? We started the outline with the whole comment with research about patents. So look what it says here. The grant of Japanese patent 7273053 recognizes that Quant has very well introduced a method to agree on a universal time zone for all blockchains, so that enterprises and smaller businesses can produce reliable consensus-based records. Although they work with large institutions, mostly Bank of England, of course also the BIS, they also aim to make blockchain more accessible to firms of all sizes with their low-code software as a service platform, aka Overledger. So this is not me stating it, it's them stating it. This lady, who's Helen Commit, who's part of, I did a deep dive about her. She's basically a lawyer that's part of the Quant Network. She says a patent is an entirely objective seal that a firm is indeed a true innovator, which is why we are unashamedly excited about this, right? Think about that. And more importantly, think about how the Overledger platform allows customers to issue digital money as well as interoperable assets with just in a few clicks, runs on any network, can create secure smart contracts, and will execute any blockchain and use simple APIs to integrate that with their existing systems. Okay, right? Been down that rabbit hole, but got to pound it home a little bit more. All right, let's take you over to gilbertverdian.com/CV. Now, there's a lot more in regards to his resume here, but at the beginning of the outline, did we forget how we talked about some key things? And some of those key things were what? Talking about like what I was mentioning, talking about what Tokenizer was mentioning, and that is patents, okay, and the EU patent. So to see Gilbert Verdian, like it shows here, that he was part of the EU, aka European Union Blockchain Observatory, from May 2018 to present. I mean, this pounds it all home. Remember, if you haven't seen the other outline, I'm gonna put two cards up at the end. You know, those little end screen cards for you can, if you're new, for you can see it. Just have a quick link to it. And by the way, there's a video catalog. All you do is click on channel. But I talked about, is Gilbert Verdian the culprit, the mastermind, the founder, if you will, of FedNow, right? Look at this. This aged well, did it not? Federal Reserve, Fed Payments Improvement Community, 2018 even to present. Federal Reserve Secure Payments Task Force, March 2017 to July 2018. And of course, he founded ISO TC 307. And look at all these other connections. Government, I mean, on and on and on. HM government, healthcare, HM Treasury. I mean, it's just Ministry of Justice. I mean, MasterCard. And, I have another deep dive into in regards to that. Shout out to our brother Channing. I see you, Channing. Hope you're doing well, man. But there's so many connections that it just is there. All right, I'm going to take you to this other part to pound it home just a little bit more. Back to Tokenizer. In Tokenizer, I know you're a busy guy. I hope you could maybe listen to this yourself, but if not, that's okay too. So Tokenizer goes on to mention a mystery man behind founding days of QNT. Now, this is the guy I was talking about earlier from the Fastnet patent. Okay, he was mentioned. So we recover these guys, but it's basically this guy, Gaetano Mondelli. Let's dive in. Because just like with the Fastnet citation from China, right, and we uncovered that Quant network, basically every single person you saw from the assignee had Gilbert Verdian, I said Gilbert Verdi technically, right, but that's the same guy, Colin Paterson, Gaetano Mondelli, and Paolo Tasca. Instead of saying current assignee of Quant Network Limited, it said Fastnet, right, Network Limited. And that still bugs me, right? That's why I'm bringing it to you guys. But we got to point some of this out. Quite strange that over the years in the Quant ecosystem, we've heard Paolo and Colin brought up somewhat regularly. There were two other founders after all. And while Paolo and Colin have moved on to other ventures in their, timeline, Paolo's role in HBAR Treasury and Colin with TrustPath, they are still both rightfully added as inventors of the patent, as they all likely collaborated together on it. Among those inventors is Gaetano Mondelli. So he looked further into it, as in Tokenizer. And when we check back in the original Overledger white paper, we see something interesting. Well, that's why I'm bringing it to you guys as well. And like you see, Gaetano Mondelli. And yeah, that's right. He was on the original Overledger white paper alongside the founders, but it's not all. He has his own webpage, and we get more into this. I thought I'd blow this up for you guys because it goes on to mention basically, I guess you could say this right here, and that is this. Blew it up more. It says, I, as in him that we're talking about, invented a protocol, and look how it says Overledger at the top, that enables blockchains communication, allows for the creation of workflows over multiple blockchains. The idea came from working on a distributed event-driven application for a couple years. The application worked with an unreliable network, and it was not possible to sync continuously. You can model blockchain as clients in an unreliable network where messages can get lost, transactions not included via a block, or even change for a variable period, like forks happening in blockchains. Okay, stop with the technicalities. Yeah, like some of you guys, I might have lost you, but the idea was patented, and the token backing the project is now worth almost $500 million. Now it goes on to mention you have the applicational functional layer, Overledger, blah, blah, blah. If you look at this diagram and go back to the one from Fastnet, literally it's the same thing, but it's in Chinese. And of course, it does mention Overledger, like it says Overledger in the Chinese characters. It's the first DLT, second DLT. So that matches up. That's why I'm going to bring it to you guys. All right, a little bit more about this. If we go over to Justia patents, you will see roughly, we got here? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3 key ones. And again, all of them still in line with the inventors and still cites these 4 guys and talks about, the implementation of a method for maintaining a record of order of messages appearing on one or more blockchains. Think about that for a second. And the method of comprising, identifying, and the plurality of message, where each message in the plurality of transactions is included on any of the one or more blockchains, or storing a record, or having plurality messages in data stores. If you really look into it, Overledger being blockchain agnostic, right? Like that spells out what Overledger is, but you got to make a patent about that, right? I just thought I'd give you that analysis to kind of put it in layman's terms. What's also important for your understanding is when we get into this part, all right, back to the citation about Quant Network Limited and Gaetano, all right, you see worldwide applications, United States, Japan, and you see even China, right? And so as we get more into it, it's like, status is active, not pending. And more importantly, when we jump down, you got this one, method and system for tuning blockchain scalability for fast and low-cost payment and transaction processing. So a lot of talk about, for example, messaging, all right? And we're going to get into that here in a bit. But here is just some of your aha moment. Let's connect the beginning of the outline to the end of the outline, or towards the end of the outline. So we did bring up the whole thing of Alipay, right? More specifically, tokenizer. So what's really interesting is that, were you aware that Alipay overtook PayPal as the world's largest mobile digital payment platform back in 2013? As of June 2020, Alipay serves over 1.3 billion users. That's a lot. And 80 million merchants. According to statistics, in the fourth quarter of 2018, Alipay has a 55.32% share of the third-party payment market in mainland China, and of course continues to grow. Well, that's of course interesting, but when you get more into it, products, electronic payment, banking, mobile payment, and of course Alipay is under the umbrella of what? Alibaba. Then it goes on to mention WeChat. And I thought to myself, okay, I know where I'm going to go with this. But more interesting is this guy, Jack Ma. Jack Ma is a big, big player, to say the least, right? He's a multi-billionaire, okay? And he ranked basically second in the annual world's 50 greatest leaders, according to Fortune. But he made a substantial fortune in regards to digital payment solutions over at Ant Group. He even founded that. And he also talked about criticizing Chinese financial regulators for putting too much prioritizing in minimizing risk. All right. So why point out any of this? Well, it's where we go to the next connection of Alipay and, of course, WeChat. Look what it says in regards to WeChat. If you weren't aware of it, talks about how Chinese instant messaging, social media, and mobile payment app was developed by Tencent. It was first released in 2011 and became the world's largest standalone mobile app in 2018, with over 1 billion monthly active users. WeChat has been described as China's app for everything. Think about that. We talk about Elon Musk with X. And of course, I did that deep dive about Overledger connecting to X and how X wants to be, was it 50% of all like commerce, basically, or not exact words, but Elon Musk had mentioned that. But WeChat, described as China's app for everything and super app because of its wide range of functions. Again, text messaging, voice messaging, video conference, right? So there's what we have here in the United States and Japan and so on, But there's also a huge, massive market that, of course, exists in China. Again, back to this. Alibaba, the parent company of Alipay, reported having 150 million Youbao users in 2016 and 810 billion RMB, which is about 117 billion in funds under management. In 2015, Alibaba's parent company was rebranded, of course, as Ant Financial Services Group. In 2017, Alipay unveiled their recognitions of a payment service. See how all this ages well, in my opinion? And back to the whole thing of Jack Ma, the guy I just showed you. We're $24.5 billion, right? Really up there because he is the co-founder and chairman, former chairman of at least, what you saw in regards to Alipay / Alibaba. But he basically used to be China's richest person. All right. Check this out. Here's the icing on the cake moment, okay? If you go to make.com/en/integration/Overledger, again, what does it show here? Connect Overledger and WeChat. Yes, WeChat. That is crucial for your understanding. Some people are thinking like, well, Overledger's API everything. Is this really that big of a deal? I think it is. I think this is all worth pointing out because, it pounds it home when it comes to Tokenizer and his outline, especially mine. As we jump over to it a little bit more, Overledger is going to make an API call because I want to show you guys visuals. It kicks, for example, to WeChat, right, to do a message. And let's say, for example, Revolut wants to, send a bunch of QNT for whatever reason over to somebody, in China, right? Because we know that Revolut bought a whole bunch of QNT. Shout out to Rue Black. Remember, we did that outline. So I thought I'd give you guys that example with visuals, real visuals, okay? And of course, if you go to us1.make.com, you could create your own account and, I guess fidget with it if you're into, more of the technical side of things. All right. We have to talk about ISO before we wrap things up. July 29, 2024. Wish I could blow this up bigger. There was a big update in regards to QUANT Network. This was from Dr. Luke Riley, ISO Standards Conference. Why am I pointing this out to you? Well, basically, last month, Luke Riley, who's the head of innovation over at QUANT Network, attended a plenary meeting of the ISO TC 307 International Standards Organization. It was hosted basically with the Spanish Association for Standards, but there's members and ISO TC 307 representatives. He offered key takeaways on how QUANT can basically enable interoperability and encourage standards adoption. We all want to see standards adoption, but we want to see mass adoption of QNT, right? There was 90 experts, 30 countries, including representatives of public entities, governments, sectors, association, international organizations, standardization bodies, private companies, research centers, etc., etc. But it goes on to mention that the event split attendees into several groups. And basically, the key topics included, like the terminology of all this, security, privacy, and identity management, smart contracts, governance, interoperability, non-fungible tokens, and digital currencies. But remember how in the past I talked about mandates, especially what was posted on Swift? Here's another one of your mandates. Said, and this again, a standards committee, okay? The takeaway from it all, for all you guys, is that DLT interoperability is a requirement. That's another way of saying a mandate. Several discussions during the conference highlighted that interoperability is a requirement across multiple areas of standardization, and that ISO TC 307 had its own specific interoperability working group, of course, where founder and CEO Gilbert Vernon is the convener or the orchestrator. And it goes on to also mention that, outside of Group 7, interoperability was mentioned in relation to smart contracts, real-world asset tokenization, and smart contracts were required to connect external systems. Say what you want, Quant is the standard for building on blockchain. This last statement, Internet, that always gets brought up. Bank of International Settlements concept for the Finternet and unified ledgers was a key discussion point during a side event co-hosted by the Bank of Spain. Although many believe the concept was a long way off, their work on UK's RLN suggests otherwise. That aged really, really well as well. All right. Grand finale, if you will. Shout to Smoke. I cited him earlier. Listen to this closely. JP Morgan confidential presentation confirms we are at a tipping point in ISO 222 adoption. While banks are promoting, or I should say adopting, a new message format, they're also adding blockchain tech to the core systems. Now, I noticed that he didn't put like XRP and Quant and all this stuff with it. I mean, he just posted what he posted. But shout out to Channing. How do you say Quant without saying Quant? Listen to this for yourself, and then we do a follow-up. Again, if you have to listen to it twice, listen to it twice. 37 seconds. Here we go.
Efficiency at the same time. Now, from a timeline perspective, I think it's important to note that ISO 20022 is not necessarily new. It's been actually adopted by many low-value real-time payments or high-value payment systems in over 70 countries. However, what's significant in the next couple of years is that as high-value payment systems for major currencies, such as Euro, US dollar, and GBP, will be moving to ISO, all of a sudden we have a tipping point and a critical mass in that over 80% of the world's transactions or the world's payment will be processed through ISO standards.
All right, so we listened to that part. I'm going to jump into the next part. This is also very, very good. So let's pull it down to the next particular one posted by Smoke. This is from August 12th, so not really too long ago. And listen closely to this one. He goes on to mention JP Morgan representative confirms that SWIFT is moving to DLT and token-based rails. Naveen Malala is the global head of the coin systems team at Onyx at JP Morgan, which focuses on innovative payment products and infrastructure based on digital currencies and blockchain tech. In this panel of digital payments, or digital assets, I should say, he explicitly confirms that correspondent banks like JP Morgan and networks like Swift are moving to DLT-based rails going forward. Now, I get it. A lot of people from Chainlink are going to be like, yep, this is Chainlink all the way because that Swift connection. I understand that. But think about the beginning of the outline and towards the end of the outline. We talked specifically about Alipay, did we not? Yeah, you can't take that away. And I'm not footing Chainlink. I own Chainlink, right? But you got to listen to this. And it's the last statement you're going to hear from the gentleman second to the far right. This will pound home everything that we had on the outline. Shout out to Smoke. Give him a follow for crying out loud over at SMQKEDQG. We follow each other. Thanks to Brother Smoke once again. All right, here we go.
I agree with all of her observations in terms of cross-border payments continues to remain challenging. Domestic payment infrastructures have improved by leaps and bounds. UPI in India, PIX in Brazil, and many more have delivered instant payments 24/7. Cross-border is where the challenges continue to lie. It relies on correspondent banking. Banks like us, are the ones who are running the rails, but there are obvious challenges in an account-based model. So we firmly believe that message-based infrastructure, which is what powers the card networks, SWIFT, will give way to token-based infrastructure going forward. And that is where DLT can play a very useful role in terms of these token-based pipes. We do think that the future of payment networks is going to be open loop. So closed loop networks like wallets, which have done a really good job where payment infrastructure has been found wanting to create a rich user experience. I think that will give way to open loop. Already wallet companies like Paytm in India are struggling ever since UPI has come on board. I think the same story is going to repeat with Alipay and every other wallet company.
You hear that? Alipay. Yeah. Wow. So shout out to Tokenizer, Smoke, Quant Papa, whoever else I didn't mention. The research adds up. The research from beginning to end stacks up. Know what you have. Know why you hold it, everybody. The research trumps FUD 110%. With that said, please smash the like if you haven't done so already. Hopefully I earn your subscription if you're new. Share this content with others. Have them understand the bigger picture of QNT. There's a lot of people, no offense to them. I have really no offense to any of these guys, that will basically just give you a basic opinion. Are they really truly researching quant? Compare this material with some of the other people out there who stated that this is going to go to zero. My God, I don't know about that, right? So with that said, I respect all opinions, but I'm not in par with that. If you actually stayed to the end of the outline, do me a favor, and that is simply type this, the letter R, as in research. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.
If managing your crypto feels like solving a puzzle, it's time to switch to Decent Wallet. Say goodbye to complicated setups and hello to Decent Wallet, the hassle-free solution to your digital currency needs. With just a few taps, you can manage, track, and secure your crypto with unmatched ease. And here's the best part. Grab your Decent Wallet at a discounted price by using the referral link below. Don't miss out on making your crypto experience smoother and more secure.